Okay, should I hit the gavel again? Second time's a charm. Call the meeting to order. And then we will be having Spanish interpretation available for the board meeting for those who are viewing online. Se dispondrá de interpretación simultánea del inglés al español durante la reunión del Consejo de Educación para quienes la estén viendo por Internet. And we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't kill ourselves. Right. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, now we'll do our roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
Here.
Dr. Armistead is absent right now. Mrs. Cardy.
Here.
Ms. Ehrman.
Here.
Mrs. Frost.
Here.
Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Walker is absent as of now.
Perfect. And then we have our changes to the agenda. And we will have one change to the agenda today. We are going to be removing the recommended approval of the Olive Grove Charter School Memorandum of Understanding. It seems like there's we need just a little bit more time to get that draft finalized. So we will add that to either in the next meeting. And now it's time for board comments. Does anyone would like to start?
I can start. So it's a busy end of the year for my family as we had our second high school graduation. This is great. Thank you so much. First son went off to the Navy. Next one's headed off to the Air Force. We've gone to graduation parties. The elementary school grad walk is just so stinking cute. I had to get out of work and go check it out. And then just passing on that I am leaving for the East Coast to go see my family next week. So wish everyone safe travels as we're going into the summer and happy, safe graduation.
Yes.
I want to say that we had a really wonderful education celebration in late May. It was fabulous. And I think our new teacher of the year is just going to shine. And I thoroughly enjoyed Susan's comments as always. And I wish that you could pass the script around. Your comments were just spot on. Always just so proud. It is a busy time of year. I've attended awards ceremonies and scholarship recognition and graduations. And for my part, in my trustee area in Carpinteria, graduating class numbered 147 seniors. And I think that most of them received some kind of scholarship award. Over $2 million was awarded to this graduating class this year.
Wow.
And 70% of the graduates are going to four-year state colleges and universities, which was just another compliment.
I did want to share also, there was a lot of activity, a lot of graduations. Also, we have the Elks Parade and we had many schools participating with their little drill teams and bands and lots of awards monetarily. First place and second place got $500. Second place, I'm not sure, but it was just delightful. And sometimes you forget because we're on a treadmill and to sit there on the side of the road and watch all of these kids on trucks, on foot, with the YMCA, with baseball, with actual tumbling. I mean, it's just amazing. And they are amazing kids. So with that, we also have the tragedy that happened with the accident. And unfortunately, it's just a sad time also. They went through our schools, our junior high schools, and some of the parents also of these children and grandparents went through the schools. So they've been here for a while and it affected a lot of family. So I was so sorry to hear that too. But thank you.
It's already been said, it's a busy time of year between scholarship awards activities. Every year, the educational event happens at the same time as the Allen Hancock College scholarship event. Something's got to give. Tell them it's just not gonna work anymore. The community has been affected significantly by the tragedy, and Fighting Back Santa Maria is working with the youth in really trying to hammer home that this tragedy probably could have been prevented and what that would mean for them. So we're with all of them as they go through this very sad time.
Thank you. And thank you for that. And yes, it is very tragic what happened. And my heart goes out to the families and the community. And just hoping that it's great to hear that Fighting Back has been involved. And yeah, it's just no words for that. I did aside from that, I did, it's kind of bittersweet, right? Because there's so much joy happening at the same time with graduations and last day of school and summer starting. So want to just say a wide swath happy graduation and congratulations to all the graduates out there this year. And then I also want to congratulate our stellar superintendent for her unanimous reelection win. And I know that even if you would have had an opponent, I'm confident that the results would have been the same. Right. I was just going to say that I think the lack of qualified opponents really speaks to the community's confidence and your experience, your aptitude, and your continued stellar service and performance. So really happy to be able to serve with you for another term. Of course. And then also there has been a lot of award ceremonies and celebrations. Okay, they agree. Yeah. And I also had the pleasure of attending the education celebration last month with other colleagues and board members, and we had our own celebration and our meeting last month. And you know, there's always things happening and challenges and areas of growth, but acknowledging and celebrating the hard work of our countless professionals and the education community is always an endeavor worth investing. So really happy that we invest in that time here. And then I just also wanted to take a moment to highlight the SBA, which stands for the Santa Barbara County School Board Association meeting. So I just wanted to put a reminder out there that that consortium of board members and all through the districts all over the county happen approximately once a month on the first Thursday of every month from 8:30 to 9:30. It's a Zoom meeting, and it's a way to really just hear what's going on in the county and all the different districts. It's also a time to capacity build, resource share, and we even have Rachel Wells, who is our rep from the CSBA on the meeting. So, and in our last meeting, we talked about how to engage more board members and get more engagement and attendance. So I just wanted to make a plug here today. So,
Just a question. Is there like a reminder or something when these meetings are? I just asked the question because I never know when they're on.
That's a great question. And I don't know if we have a reminder right now for all of the board members throughout the districts, but that's something that we talked about. And I think we'll start doing and putting it on the calendar. Superintendent Salcido, would you like to speak to that?
Part of the December board organizational meetings that all school boards have, including the county board, asks for a representative from the board to attend that meeting. And so at this point, what we've done is notified that individual and copied the superintendent should they want to attend as well. What we're modifying now is to have a calendar invite go automatically to those same individuals. And we could further modify it and notify our full county board of those Zooms, and you can optionally attend. So happy to do that. And it looks like there's it could be just an option. We could put it on your calendar to at least know about, and feel free to attend. Happy to do that. Yep.
And we know that everyone's busy and has a lot of meetings. So as Superintendent Salcido mentioned, it's completely optional, but if you have the time and would like to join, we'd love to have you. So now we'll move into presentations. And so now I'd like to introduce Meg Ridman, the Superintendent of Olive Grove Charter Schools, to give an overview presentation of the schools program. And President Ehrman, if I may, as Meg Ridman is coming to the podium, I first wanted to acknowledge that we don't have any public comment. So I know that was a piece here of the agenda. So just want to make sure that you knew. Sorry.
There's no public comment. Yes.
I skipped that.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keeping me on
You
task.
got it. You got it. And as the green button, it says you. And as Mr. Walker is coming in, welcome. And as by way of further introducing Meg Ridman, who's here today, as the board we have shared before, that this is meant to be a first of hopefully, several as ongoing conversations in a partnership that we are establishing. We thought that today would be a really great opportunity for Meg to share with us just the overview of Olive Grove Charter. I do want to say that Bridget Boblitz attended Olive Grove's graduation about 2 weeks ago. I want to say about 2 weeks ago. It was a tremendous ceremony. In that case, it was all of Olive Grove Charter schools combined. And so just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to settle in, introduce Meg, and thank you for being here. And we have about a 15-20 minute presentation, and then Meg has her own board meeting to go to. So turning it over to Meg. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Is the volume okay? Is it mostly for online?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Well, good afternoon. As you've heard, I am Meg Ridman. I am the superintendent for the Olive Grove Charter Schools, just wrapping up my 6th year with Olive Grove, my 29th year in education, and I think it's my 25th in public charter schools in particular. I really appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself and Olive Grove Charter Santa Barbara as we transition into this new chapter of our relationship with this board and the SB CEO. Green button. Whew, success. Olive Grove has been serving families across Santa Barbara County for 25 years. As a result of a 2016 court decision, Olive Grove established a family of 4 separate charters, one for each learning center location in 2018. Our 3 sister schools, Buellton, Lompoc, and Orchid Santa Maria, were all successfully renewed this past fall for 5-year terms by their local districts. The 4 schools, the 4 Olive Grove schools, are distinct from one another, yet they all share the same principles, philosophy, and learning methodologies. I work in an online school, you'd think I have technology down. So since 2018, all 4 schools have been authorized by the State Board of Education with a strong collaborative relationship. Due to legislative changes, the State Board can no longer act as our direct authorizer upon our June 30, 2026 term expiration. As I previously mentioned, 3 of the Olive Grove schools were renewed through their local districts. Santa Barbara Unified, however, denied Olive Grove Charter Santa Barbara's petition locally. So upon our appeal, the CDE, California Department of Education, recommended renewal. The Advisory Commission on Charter Schools approved it, and it moved to the State Board of Education, where they formally granted our 5-year renewal in March. The SBE then delegated authorization to you, this board, starting July 1, 2026. There's a lot of words on the slide, but hopefully you have a copy if you want to read it at your leisure later. So a little bit about our programming. We operate what we call a flex-based blended learning program for students in grades TK to 12. We couple independent, rigorous online curriculum with direct, localized, in-person support at our centers. Our mission is to give students the skills to self-advocate and thrive independently. And we are anchored by our core values: partnership, compassion, engagement, and empowerment. Guided by this mission and our values, we serve those whose needs might not be met in a traditional school setting, be it for a short time or for the entirety of their educational lifespan, including those experiencing health issues or wellness crises, students in transition, perhaps due to housing instability or to accommodate work schedules, caregiving responsibilities, or those requiring credit recovery to graduate or to transition back to their traditional setting. We meet these needs through our highly interactive wraparound supports, including individualized weekly meetings with credentialed teachers, daily access to our learning center with on-site labs, classes, and enrichment opportunities, tailored English learner supports, which have been praised consistently in our site visits from our current authorizer, mental health counseling, and a rigorous A to G approved online curriculum, which includes 3 new robust CTE pathways introduced this past school year. We're a member of the El Dorado Charter SELPA and provide a full complement of special education supports and services. Our enrollment is currently on a positive trajectory. We had 84 students enrolled on Census Day for 25-26, and we project about 90 students for next school year. Demographically, we serve a population that historically hovers about half to 2/3 socioeconomically disadvantaged. And this current year, this most recent past year, we had about 7% multilingual learners and about 12% students with disabilities. The majority of our population is Hispanic. As you can see in this slide, that's been true for the last 3 years. The next majority population is white. And critically, our enrollment is heavily concentrated in the upper high school grades, specifically 11th and 12th grade, reflecting our vital role as a credit recovery and alternative graduation hub. So the far bar on the right is our 11th and 12th grade enrollment. It's over 50% of our population. So to understand our academic data, you must understand our student mobility. In 25-26 school year, a striking 56% of our entire student body was in their very first year of enrollment with us. Our 3-year average sits at about 58% of first-year students. Our school's overall stability rate for 24-25, reflected on the right-hand side of that line, was 57.9% compared to the county's stability rate at 91.9%. This means, in part, that our annual performance averages heavily reflect any academic gaps or credit deficiencies students already possess the day they walk in through our doors. But despite that high mobility, we maintain an exceptional school culture. Parents report strong agreement on safety and view us as true partners. Staff feel deeply valued within a collaborative culture, and our students value the support and flexibility they enjoy, and they report feeling safe and accepted. This safe and welcoming environment creates the necessary platform for learning. And this learning is validated through our verified data. Our 25-26 fall to winter iReady diagnostic data shows that for grades 1 to 8, 66.7% were meeting typical growth goals in reading, and 55.6% were doing so in math. We haven't concluded our analysis of our end of year assessment yet, so this is our fall to winter growth. And in high school, we realized an approximate 5 percentage point increase in students performing at or mid or above grade level in reading from fall to winter, and a massive 19% percentage point decrease in students tracking 3 or more grade levels behind in math. Our systems are working. Our dashboard doesn't immediately reveal too much about our students' performance and progress, which makes our internal benchmarking all the more valuable. But the true validation of our model is found when analyzing contiguous enrollment and CASP performance. When you isolate our CASP data for our students who are enrolled with us for 2 or more years, we see immense growth. In English language arts, students with us for 2 or more years outperformed our first-year students' average distance from standard by over 23 points in school year 23-24 and by 36 points in 24-25. In math, the 2-year or more cohort outpaced first-year averages by over 20 points in 23-24 and more than 44 points in 24-25. Time with Olive Grove systematically closes gaps. Olive Grove matters because we provide a proven personalized learning alternative. We welcome our vulnerable populations from our community, wrap them in specialized pathways, and deliver a high-quality public education option that honors student choice and flexibility. As we look forward to working with you as our authorizer, we bring a structurally complete program. Olive Grove is fiscally sound, boasting a history of clean audits, a healthy reserve balance, and projected surpluses across the entirety of our renewal term. We are fully accredited with a 6-year term through 2029, reaffirmed just this month via our June 2026 mid-cycle report. And we are on a positive growth trajectory, both in enrollment and academic success. We do not view county oversight as a mere administrative step, but as an opportunity to build a true, transparent partnership focused on continuous school improvement and student success. With that, I would invite you to visit our Learning Center whenever you might have the opportunity once school reopens. And I will close with some responses from a survey of our 2026 graduates about the impact that Olive Grove has had on them or where they might be if they hadn't found Olive Grove. And again, I thank you for your time. And I have a handout. I don't think it was, I think I was going to provide it. There's that, but this is like a little fact sheet. If you're interested, just a little one pager. Reiterates a lot of what's in there already that I already said, but it's puts that there for you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question. How are students admitted to the program? How do students get into the program or get into the school?
How do they find us? Or how do they
find you? I don't know if it's a referral from a school site or if the parents are the ones that go and search.
It could be any one of those. So local districts will sometimes mention us to students if they think we might be a good fit for that particular student or family situation.
Okay.
We do minimal marketing. Sometimes we put an ad in the Independent or things like that, but very minimal. We have some very minimal signage that you might be able to see from the road, but primarily students or families seek us out because they're looking for some alternative, like I said, either for a short term or for the longer term.
So are all students accepted then if they
we are public
in there?
Yes. Okay. So we operate as a charter school. We hold a lottery in the spring so we project our enrollment for next school year, what our capacity will be. If we have more interest in the spring than we'll have capacity, we hold a lottery. And then we fill to capacity. And then after the time the lottery's been held in the spring, we operate on a wait list basis. So it's first come, first served, when space allows. And we do have students that move around regularly. So we enroll pretty much pretty much all year, but we enroll on a first come, first served basis after the enrollment lottery has occurred.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about post-secondary program, the acceptance.
I I don't have that data at my fingertips. We do, the majority of our students move from high school into either mostly Santa Barbara City College or the workforce or military. We have a small number that go to a 4-year university, but that is the minority of our population. Again, I don't have the data at my fingertips,
Yeah.
but like any school, there's a variety of destinations. And we try to prepare students for any one of those options that they might choose.
Thank you, Meg, for the presentation. And it's really inspiring to see the work that Olive Grove Charter does with their students and how the values and how you operate the educational agency. So I really appreciate that. And I did want to follow up with a question about you mentioned that you have a lottery and then a wait list. How often are you at capacity where you need to exercise the lottery and then the wait list?
We've had a lottery for Santa Barbara for at least the last 3 years that I can recall off the top of my head. We do, as I mentioned, our corporation operates 4 charters. And we don't always need the lottery for all 4 schools, but typically, like I said, at least off the top of my head, the last 3 years, Santa Barbara has had the lottery, has necessitated a lottery.
And generally speaking, annually, approximately how many students can the school hold before it's at capacity?
Anywhere from 85 to 90. We could probably make 95 work. And we hire as needed. So we will hire a new teacher if we had a critical mass of interest to warrant the hire, then we do that. Again, as on an as needed basis. So our capacity may not be fixed. We determine the capacity at the time we're doing the lottery based on our current staffing projections and our understanding of the students that are returning, how many are graduating, those kinds of things. And then if we got a sudden influx of students in July that were interested, we would attempt to hire to accommodate them.
Good. Thank you. No further questions. Oh, yes, please.
A question about governance, just a curiosity, given that you have the 4 different schools, do you have 4 different boards?
No.
Then? No. 1.
No. So we are 501c3 corporation, Olive Grove Charter Schools, Inc. And the corporation has a board that operates the 4 schools, that governs the 4 schools.
Okay.
We do everything individually. We do separate budgeting. It's presented in a single file, so to speak, into the board is presented, but each school is separated out. We do 4 LCAPs. We do, which is what we're proving tonight. I look a little tired. But it's one governing board for the corporation that operates the 4 schools.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
And I'm an employee of the corporation.
Yeah.
So it's similar to a district structure in that, there's one entity that operates the 4 schools, but they are 4 LEAs, local educational agencies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I am going to.
Okay. So now we'll continue with a presentation on the Santa Barbara County Education Office 2026-2027 Local Control and Accountability Plan. And we'll have Associate Superintendent of Student and Community Services, Bridget Boblick, give us our presentation.
Well, hello.
Hello.
For today. Thank you. And I will be a small piece. This is a group presentation, just to remind the board. But certainly just want to start with stating that, I don't know this. Oh, yes, thank you. I got it right here. Yeah. it went back and forth, so it threw me off. So this LCAP, as you know, is comprised of working or put together by a very large team. And honestly, I can't take a ton of credit for it anymore, although it's under my direction. Dr. Elise Simmons, our director, and Director Renee Wheeler and Director Amy Willis, along with their staff, really helped to put this together. And so I just wanted to just briefly say a few names, not to bore you, but just to express the magnitude of how many people work on this document. So from our student and community services team, both Elise Simmons and administrative assistant Lauren Lucas work on it. From JCCS, we have Renee Wheeler, Andrea, our new coordinator, Maria Pacheco, and Janelle Hansen work on it. From TYS, we have Amy Willis and one of her staff members, Alondra, work on it. And then our fiscal team, we also have Nicole Evenson, Araceli, I know probably does some of the figuring, as well as Anna Dillon. So there is a large number of people who have their fingers on this. So I just want you to understand that, again, it isn't me per se, but a large group of people who put the time and energy into it. So with that, we'll go ahead and go forward. I'm going to start with just a brief overview of the LCAP. And this presentation is similar to the presentation we provided you last year, but you all have the copy of the LCAP document. And just to outline what it is for you, there are 4 main sections. The first section is the budget overview for parents. Then you're going to have the actual physical part of the LCAP, which includes the annual update and then this planning LCAP year for 26-27, as well as the increased and improved services section. Then you'll have a section that's tabbed, that's the tables. Those are all the budget figures that are included as part of the LCAP. And then lastly, the instructions, which have to be submitted as part of LCAP approval. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about the history of the scope of the work. You'll recall in February, we came to the board with a mid-year update, and that is now a new requirement, which the board is then looking at and approving where we have been up to that point. What were the actions that have been completed and what expenditures? Based on that, now we've been moving forward into the planning part of the next phase of the LCAP and also finalizing the annual update for 25-26. So that is part of that middle section. And then you're also looking at the plan for 26-27, which will be the final year of a 3-year plan. In terms of the LCAP goals, just as kind of a brief reminder, there are 5 goals in total. The first 2 goals, when you read through the LCAP, goal 1 and 2, are very specific to our juvenile court and community schools. Goal 3 is related to transitional youth services and our work as the foster youth services coordinating school program. So our community or county work that our TYS department does. Goal 4 is related to a maintenance goal. It's just some of the basic things that we are maintaining as an organization, including our work under Elise now as child welfare and attendance and our triennial youth expelled plan. And then goal 5 is what we call that focus goal. And this is very specific to the equity multiplier funds that our office receives. And this goal does change year to year. So when you're looking at this goal, last year's goal was slightly different. This is based on data from the dashboard and subgroups, and how they're doing at that lowest performance level. So for 26-27, it's specifically looking at suspension rates. It's also looking at our long-term English learner progress rates for specific subgroups. And at this point, I'm going to stop the brief overview and welcome up Elise Simmons to go into a bit more of the LCAP.
Thank you, Bridget.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is a graphic you've seen before, but I changed it up for you. I actually use Notebook LM, which is my new favorite tool. I love it. But this just emphasizes our cycle, the year-long cycle. And we are in the sort of where the salmon, maybe the color of my jacket, I realize, piggy bank area, we are there. So we've gone through this complete cycle. We presented in the winter, our mid-year, that was part of an analysis. And then the winter, early springtime, we're doing educational partner feedback. In the springtime, we're doing a lot of writing, a lot of discussion, a lot of analyzing, and then also then working with our budget fiscal partners and working on our new plans. So this just gives you an overview of our continuous improvement of student support cycle. As we are working on this continuous improvement, we are analyzing and evaluating. So our annual update, that's what we're looking at. What did we say we wanted to do? So we're looking at our metrics for actually now we're looking at 2 years worth of metrics. And you can see that in the LCAP itself. We're identifying areas of success. We're identifying areas where we're like, we need to focus a little bit more on there. What's happening there? We're not making progress like we thought we might. We start to ask a lot of questions. And when I say we, it's different stakeholder groups. So it could be staff at a staff meeting. It could be asking students. It could be bringing in the leadership team and really looking at the metrics for the entire day. We do that every year. So as we're looking at what we said we're going to do and looking at student metrics that also involve parent metrics, and you can see we have a whole bunch of them. We're looking at where are the improvements? Where are the areas where we're being challenged? We're noticing the growth isn't as quickly or as what we had hoped it would be. We ask questions like, well, have we really implemented that action? Like, do we need to change it a little bit? Do we need more time? This is, remember, a 3-year plan. So we are writing it as if we have 3 years to implement the action. So we're like, well, what do we need to do differently next year is our last year. And then are there other things, other supports, maybe another action item we need to do or something else we need to consider to meet our intended goals? And as we ask those questions, we are evaluating those actions. Should we keep them? Should we revise it? Should we remove it? Should we add something? And you'll see throughout our LCAP, I will say, looking into next year's, we have revised, we've eliminated one, but we've kept basically everything else. And we've added a few new ones. And Renee will go more into that when she presents. So it's pretty consistent. We're pretty proud of ourselves. We wrote a good one, and so we're just now refining it for next year. The way we refine it and analyze and do all that, we cannot do that alone. We engage our educational partners. Here's a list of the different groups in relationship to students and staff that we speak to, both formally and informally. So formally, we're collecting survey data. There might be a strategic meeting where it's specifically about the LCAP. We're engaging with our bargaining units, behavioral health staff, CTE director, and then also in parents and community partners. We're including them as well. Surveys, phone calls, site council. Renee works a lot with the probation administration and staff and the district partners. And then Amy has a whole bunch of different variety of meetings throughout the year with her liaisons as well as her advisory committee. So all along, we are getting as much data and intel as we can to like, how are we doing? And what should we do differently or what should we keep doing? So it's part of our process, and it just really brings in all of those voices that are really important for the LCAP. So now I'm going to turn it over to Renee so she can tell you about all the exciting highlights and things we're looking forward to.
Thank you, Lily. So exciting, the work. So first, I would like to highlight our successes. It's always a good place to start. And we are particularly proud of the California Healthy Kids Survey that we do every year, specifically in the area of connectedness, because our students are feeling more connected. And some of the data I'd like to highlight is we had 81% of our students this year report that they feel safe at school, which, I think that's worthy of celebrating. And then we also had a 14% increase in students who said they had a caring adult relationship at school. And I feel that is worth highlighting because we know that's a protective factor that promotes resiliency. And next, our daily attendance. We saw an improvement over last year, and we are now at 92% average daily attendance. And that's only 2.8% away from our goal of 95%. So we are well on our way. And then lastly, our suspension rate. We were able, we identified 6 student groups at the court school and 2 at the community school last year that were at the lowest performing level. And so we had goals and actions last year specific to that. And this year we were able to decrease our suspension rate by 2.9%. And the largest reduction was with our Hispanic Latino students. And we were able to decrease that by 15.5%. And then we were able to make smaller reductions, 5.5% decrease with our students experiencing homelessness, and a 3.1 decrease for our socially economic disadvantaged students. So we are well on our way. And then for our areas of identified need, we again are looking at our CTE program. And last year, our teacher retired mid-year, and we used that as an opportunity to kind of rethink our CTE program. And we decided we needed to have a dedicated CTE teacher that could work at both of our schools. And so in October, we started recruiting for that, and it took a little bit longer than anticipated. But I'm happy to share that mid-May, we were able to hire a full-time CTE teacher in manufacturing. But because of that lull, we were only able to enroll 30% of our students in a CTE program this year. And so that is why it is an area of need. And also our suspension rate, it was a success and an area of need because our students with disabilities and our long-term English learners both experienced an increase in suspensions this year. So we know it works because we were able to reduce it in the other areas. So we will continue with that. And also our students particularly said that they appreciated the calming space that we created for them to use and our student-led club here at Fitzgerald. They've been doing a lot of beautification and they established a culture club so that they can celebrate their culture. And so we will continue doing those things. And then our last area is in math. And so we, last year through the work with our work group, we found and purchased a new math curriculum. And so we implemented it this year. And even though we're still in the early stages of implementation, we are seeing some improvement in digital literacy, test-taking skills, and mathematical practices. So that's our areas of need. And now focused on our goals. So goal 1 is our biggest goal, and it focuses on proficiency of grade level standards and career college readiness. And it has 4 priority areas that it focuses on. 2, which is in state standards, area 4 in pupil achievement, area 7 in course access, and then area 8 in outcomes. So goal 1 is aimed primarily at academic achievement, meeting the needs of students with disabilities and English learners, preparing students for college and careers, with additional focus on improving student achievement on CAS, providing credit recovery and interventions for students, A through G courses, and expanding CTE. So that's the big. Goal 2 is focused on strengthening educational partnerships. And we have metrics for 3 state priority areas. In priority area 3 is parent involvement and family engagement. Area 5 is pupil engagement, and 6 is on school climate. So this goal is aimed at improving school climate, student and parent engagement, and providing supports for students and families. We have actions that focus on counseling services, behavioral health supports, increased parent engagement through parent outreach and ongoing communication. And we also have a big focus on our parent engagement nights where we provide additional educational opportunities for our parents. I'm going to skip goal 3 because Amy's going to tell you all about that. Goal 4 is our maintenance goal, and it is designed to maintain progress in the state priority areas not addressed in the other goals. And specifically, this goal is aimed at maintaining progress on state priorities 1 and 10. Priority area 1 is focused on basic learning conditions of learning, and we use the Williams reports for that. And priority 9 is the coordination of instruction for expelled youth. And this is something that county offices are required to provide. And those actions focus on maintaining a robust base program for JCCS students and county-wide services for expelled students. And then goal 5, as Bridget mentioned previously, is our focus goal for how we are going to use our equity multiplier funds. And it targets the student groups in JCCS with the lowest performance on the dashboard, which is priority area 6 in student climate and priority area 4 in pupil achievement and for our suspension rate. Some of the actions we've identified are utilizing restorative approaches, creating calming spaces, and you can see our calming space pictured up there, and then our student-led beautification club. And you can see their handiwork. They've been working on the mosaics. They've been planting plants and watering those plants and weeding the plants. The one more item that we're required to report on is what we're doing to increase and improve the services that is above and beyond our base program. That targets the supports and services for English learners, foster youth, socially economic disadvantaged students. Currently, 100% of JCCS students are considered unduplicated and fall into at least one of these categories. So in developing these plans, we have focused on these 7 additional supports, and I would just like to highlight a few. So we now are able to have a community outreach and college counselor at both of our sites. So we're very excited about that. And both of them are bilingual. And so that is very helpful when planning with our students. And then also translation services. 85% of JCCS staff are bilingual and able to speak with students and their families in their native language. So I think that's worth highlighting. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about transitional youth services. Good afternoon. I'm Amy Willis. Yes, of course.
But this is not to anyone in particular, but I sort of know what this means, but could somebody define what is socially disadvantaged? Socially,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a very narrow definition in the LCAP, and it's the students who qualify for clearly used funds.
Okay.
All right. I'm Amy Willis, and I am the Director of Transitional Youth Services here at the Santa Barbara County Education Office. And our mission as a department is to strengthen the system of support that exists for our foster youth. And so our goal is very much aligned with that. Foster youth will be provided a system of support that includes targeted services that address barriers impacting their education. And we believe that strengthening this system will result in reduced suspension rate, improved attendance, and increased graduation rate. So we support all of the districts from Carpinteria and Maria. We support all of them. And the actions that we're taking to achieve our goal are very much interconnected. They all sort of stem from building relationships because that's what we really spend our time doing. We build relationships, first of all, we really try, one of our top priorities is improving our interagency collaboration. And the reason for this is that working to support foster youth is very complicated. It's education is like a tiny piece of the pie. And so it's really important for us to understand what all of the other stakeholders are doing so that we can work together. And so this first image of the kind of human shape there was an activity that we did at our beginning of the year liaison retreat that was a collaboration between our department and YouthWell. And it came out of conversations with liaisons where they were feeling frustrated that they couldn't do enough because there is so much to do to support someone who has so much trauma. And after talking to the folks at YouthWell, we came up with a plan to have a retreat to start the year where we focus on what we can do. And this was one of the activities that we did where we used scenarios that had come up during the previous school year. We put groups of liaisons together. We had, 50 people at this event. And they worked together to talk about what could they do? What resources do they have? And so each part of the body sort of represented something. Like the feet represent what laws and policies do we stand on? And the heart represents who can we reach out to? Who can we work with? And just brainstorming together some of the difficult situations that occurred the previous year and working through them together. And even just that activity of being together, I think was a comfort to everybody knowing that you're not in this alone. So we had mostly liaisons at this event, but we also had folks from Family Care Network. We had, obviously, YouthWell was there. We had some counselors, some registrars. Anyone who was interested could come just to, again, strengthen the system of support and to look at who we have in our corner. So the other thing that we really prioritize is improving collaboration just within our own department, because we serve so many districts and our program associates are divided up by region. So it's important that we all connect and know what everybody else is doing. And what we were finding, both regions, North and South, was that liaisons and some of our partners are talking a lot about trauma and feeling like they don't have the skills that they need to support the amount of trauma that kids have gone through. It's really hard to address the education when there are these other layers to get through. And so the picture up there, that's our mission, vision, and values. And we always return to that. But what we've also incorporated into our time together as a team, besides looking at the work that we're doing and prioritizing, is we have a book study where we're reading The Body Keeps the Score. And we're trying to become more educated about trauma so that we can offer support for our district. And we're also looking into having more trauma responsive training for the liaisons in the upcoming year. And something else we did at our beginning of the year sort of meeting as a team is we looked at our mission, vision, and values, and we compared them to the mission, vision, and values of Santa Barbara County Education Office. And that was an interesting conversation. And just highlight the words, and Bridget had us do this too, highlight the words that come up, in both places and makes us feel part of something bigger. And then the final thing that we really, really focus on is our collaboration, not just with our stakeholders, but also with our districts. And so in this room, just a couple of weeks ago, we had an end of year celebration for our liaison. We had over 30 liaisons show up because what we were hearing is that we have monthly meetings where we invite stakeholders and they present, and they've learned about at least this year, they learned about 9 different resources that they have in the community. Each month they learn about something different, and we get together on Zoom and we talk, and it's great. But what they were asking for, they do a lot of needs assessing, is time together in person to sit down and talk about what they've worked through, what their successes are. And so that final picture is a picture of all of those folks together talking about different things. We talked about hope. We talked about gratitude. We talked about our year. We had a keynote speaker. It was really excellent. And like I said at the beginning, every district is different. The support looks different for every district, but it's really healthy for everybody to get together. And moving forward, we want to have some subgroups of districts that are facing similar things. Districts that have STRTPs oftentimes have similar issues. And so putting them in a organized, group that they can count on quarterly to brainstorm together, groups about transportation, groups about early care, just different topics that come up. We want to make sure we give a forum for our liaisons to get together and personalize that support for them. So moving forward, this continues to be a priority. Again, I said I do a lot of needs assessing. And so as I hear things, we kind of try and change our course a little bit to support all the districts. And I've been really pleased with the work that we've done this year and look forward to more success and more work on the LCAP next year.
Yep. Sorry, I realized the notes I had printed were the wrong year. So that's what threw me off last time. I'm going to just wrap us up about our budget. So there's really 4 components to the budget piece of the LCAP. The first component is calculating and reporting the estimated actuals, the amounts that we planned for the actions in 25-26, and those are reflected in those tables towards the back. The second piece is including planned expenditures for 26-27, and you will see that those are reflected within the body of the LCAP itself, aligned with the actions. And then we have the increase and improve services component that is also reflected in the LCAP portion of it and in the action tables. And those refer to those 7 items that Renee elevated. So how are we increasing and improving services for our unduplicated students? And then lastly, everything is wrapped up in that budget overview for parents, which is at the very beginning of the document. Here are just the highlights. You can see in 25-26, we are estimating to spend a little over $3.6 million in our base funding and about $625,000 in supplemental and concentration. And then moving into 26-27, we're about $3.8 million in base funding and $641,000 in supplemental concentration. Next steps. Today you'll have the board or public hearing. And then on June 18th, there will be a presentation on the local indicators. And Elise Simmons will be presenting that to you this year. And then the board will take action on approving the LCAP. So at this point, we say thank you and we'll take any questions that you may have.
I don't have a question. I have a comment.
Yes.
I think you guys have one of the hardest jobs in education there is, because you're dealing with kids that have experienced trauma and events that are not what a normal average situation would be. They're extraordinary, be them foster or violence or whatever. And so working with them, when you were talking about attendance, and it seems like the kids with the disabilities and the long-term English speakers may feel less connected to the rest of the, I'll call it cohort, and that lack of connectivity to them, feeling even more different on top of trauma and everything, makes them very susceptible to not attending and to not feeling like they want to go or need to go, or that it is important to them. And I think that there's just so many factors involved in dealing with this group of students, and it's so critical that they get a good education and beyond, in spite of all of what has happened to them in their young lives. And I think you guys have the hardest job there is. Thank you for what you do and do very well.
Questions? No?
I just also want to just say thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't include the full presenters, Renee Wheeler and Elise Simmons and Amy Willis, for presenting and for all the work that you do and being a part of this team. In terms of the planning, and I had a particular question, and this is just more out of curiosity than programmatic. But so from what I'm understanding, there's planning, and then there's the execution, and then there's the analyzing, evaluating, and reporting.
Correct.
And lifetimes ago, when I worked in the nonprofit, I understand like the amount of energy and capacity it takes to analyze, evaluate, and report. And so I just wanted to get your sense of how much of that process affects the performance process. And is there any, I know we had talked about maybe a year or so ago, like retooling the reporting process to help lessen the amount that is done. So I just wanted to speak to that because I can see this is like such a like huge lift to do, and it's important to be able to report. And I also wonder how much of this, if it was restructured differently, you would be able to spend on the actual execution and the time with the community and the students. And I don't know if that's a good question, but it's just that was in my mind. So I don't know if I answered I asked the question correctly, but
so I'll do my best to answer because I'm trying to wrap my head around what your question really is. I mean, in terms of retooling, the LCAP itself is a state board
Right.
document. So we are at we don't have, I guess, authority to
Right.
necessarily change what we are required to analyze or report or in the format that it comes. We do spend a lot of time. I mean, one of the employees I mentioned, Janelle Hansen's job is strictly like data. She is the data specialist, gathering this data, collecting it, putting it in spreadsheets so that the team can really look at the data and analyze the data to say, is this action effective or not effective? Which is that part of that, process to determine, do we keep it going or do we switch it?
Right.
Again, this is a 3-year document. And so what will be interesting is we sort of are starting the 3rd year of the 3-year cycle. A lot of what you're talking about right now will happen next year. So it'll be a good opportunity to really evaluate what is really working and what does need to be changed to impact student performance or progress. If what we've been doing the past 3 years is having no impact, then we need to change it, right? So I don't know if that's what you're getting at necessarily, or the document itself, or a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. And then also because, and this, and if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So like a couple of years ago, when we had this presentation, I remember something along the lines of the state altering the reporting.
So there was conversations around the state altering the LCAP itself, and it has gone through various iterations over time. So this is the newest adopted format, and there were conversations about them redesigning the LCAP potentially for court and community school programs.
Okay.
And ultimately they landed on not doing that.
Okay.
They made some minor adjustments in maybe metrics that are required by court and community schools, but they decided to keep sort of the format the same. So there was a lot of conversation about maybe switching it, and ultimately it's pretty consistent.
Right. Okay. That makes sense because some of the reporting for the population can be a little tricky, right? And that's what we talked about before, because you don't have the youth for as much time as maybe, traditional LEAs. And so I think that is where what I remember easily. So anyways, yes, you did answer my question, and thank you for going down that trail with me. Are there any other more succinct questions? Well thought out.
I have
Yes,
another
Mrs.
one. When the law changed about the sending juvenile violent offenders to the court and community schools, I mean, that has to have an impact on the environment and the population in the court schools. There isn't any specific mention of that as a time point. And I mean, I read the local news. I know what happens. I know what's going on with the population. And it seems like there's times when that faction of the population is higher than it might be at other times when things happen and get put in. That's got to have an effect. And, you know, how do we, is there a way to address that in this, or do we have a way to look at that? I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, but I mean, I think the approach to dealing with that element of the population at the court schools would have a tremendous impact on the whole population.
That's a great question and a really key thought. In fact, when just listening to the prior presentation, it gave me an idea about stability rate, specifically related to court schools, because as you mentioned, the realignment of the DJJ, what it has done as well. Yes, we have more heightened, you know, offenders. We also have students now for longer periods of time, where before we would have them really short-term times. We still have that population that's very highly mobile, but we do have students who we have for a longer period of time. So it may be an interesting element to start to consider. Do we sort of pull those out? It would be small numbers given our size already is very small, but to look at some maybe local measures of data to say, like, how are they doing compared to our short-term
and adding it to the metric collection at this time would give you the ability to look at that, because you could back up. And the worst offenders now can be there till they're how old?
I want to say 24, but I'm looking to remain 25.
Oh my God.
So if they graduated though, then
longer,
but you know, they're out of our classrooms once they've graduated. So but that's something
still
we'll
in
consider.
The population.
Correct.
But we do.
Sorry, page 6.
It's not as we're not subgrouping out our specific metrics. So we talk about our secure track students. For the first time, we added that in this year as we look at next year, knowing that the population has grown. As of writing this, when we wrote this, there was 26 students in secure track. 26 of where are we at now? So overall, we had 55 kids today, I think, at the JJC, 32 of them in school, 15 graduates, so actually 57. And in goal 2, we do report on the number of students who are graduates but still residing within the courts in the JJC. How many of them go on to Allen Hancock or to a 4-year university? So we do mention them, kind of sprinkled throughout.
But maybe some additional, we can consider some additional metrics on performance and whatnot. It'd be interesting to look at for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So now we'll go ahead and open for public hearing. Do we have any public?
We do not have anything.
All right, well then we'll close public hearing. Yeah, I just like doing that. So now we're going to have a presentation on the 2026-27 County School Service and Fund Budget with Associate Superintendent of Administrative Services, Steve Forrest, and provide the presentation to the board. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and I am pleased to present the 26-27 proposed adopted budget for SBCEO. Hey, I'll begin by thanking the board for their consideration today of the adopted budget, and a special thanks to the board budget committee who met last week to review or preview the adopted budget, and really appreciated the conversation, the insight, the feedback, not just about the budget, but our programs and even all the other factors that contribute to our budget. That's Mr. Walker, Ms. Frost, and Ms. Ehrman. So thank you for that time. It's extremely valuable. I also want to acknowledge the very hard work of the fiscal team here at SBCO, led by Nicole Evenson, administrator, with Araceli Vasquez, our fiscal services controller, and Jessica Halbert, our fiscal services manager. Putting this budget together is a lot of steps in a short amount of time. They have to produce estimated actuals to see where we're ending up in this current budget year so that we can project forward as accurately as possible our revenue and expenditures. And like I said, that's on a very tight timeline with a lot of coordination and collaboration with their own staff as well as programs and department staff. And our fiscal team, along with all of our program managers and leaders, all are committed to our budget priorities, or communicating our budget priorities within the budget. And that's continuous throughout the year, not just for the adopted budget, but as we evaluate, adjust, and continually monitor the budget. And for us, that's ensuring that the purpose is to connect students with specialized services and deliver direct instruction, that we're connecting educators with professional development and career growth, and that we're connecting our local school districts, charter schools, and services to the services and support that are essential for planning, operation, and fiscal integrity. So I'll go into an overview of the CEO budgets. I think it's always important to highlight for COEs the uniqueness of our budgets, as well as the timelines in which we plan and monitor and implement the budgets. So I'll begin there. Right now, we're at our adopted point in the cycle. So by June 30th, we will adopt our budget for the upcoming year, 26-27. And when we do that, we are incorporating our best data at that time. So the May revision of the governor's budget was released in mid-May. And so that gives us the most accurate projections of where our funding will be. And then on the revenue side as well, we're using our student attendance data and reporting from about 2/3 of this current year from all districts throughout the state. We take that data and that gives us our projections in terms of things like enrollment, student populations, average daily attendance, things like that. So that's how we project out our revenues at this time. And then for our estimated, for our expenditures, we have managers meetings that we conduct to get a sense from our managers of what they're anticipating in their budgets for the upcoming year. And then we'll compile all those budgets to make the overall SBCEO budgets. And a big part of that, like I said, is having those estimated actuals from the current year to really be able to project forward by program and then ultimately by SBCEO where we see our expenditures going. Then at first interim, so this budget that will be adopted next week, we'll be carrying that forward into first interim, and that happens by December 15th of this year. And what we're doing at that time is updating the budget to include revenue projections from our enacted budget. So when the state legislature approved the budget and the governor approved the budget in mid-July, there's typically adjustments to the May revision. We'll make those adjustments within our budget. And then at that point, we have all of the data reporting from the schools from the previous year completed. So that allows us to update all of the student information, enrollment, demographics, things like that. And then we include updated expenditures through October 31st of the year. So that's the next time that we'll see the budget in December, and we'll have all those things updated. Then we'll see it again in second interim, that's in March of 27. And at that point, there wouldn't be any changes from the budget side. We're still operating from the enacted budget, but we'll have the first kind of entry of student data for the 26-27 year, and we'll start to update those numbers. We meet with our program managers again to anticipate where their expenditures, not just where they are at that time, but where they are planning for them to be for the rest of the year. And that includes spending through January 31st of the year. And then finally, this budget that we'll be adopting, 26-27 budget, will not be finalized until unaudited actuals, which occurs in October of 27. So not until the whole school year is over, then we're tying up the budget for that year. At that point, we have all of the student data from 26-27, and we have all of our expenditures through the fiscal year, June 30th of that year. So that's our budget cycle. And then I also want to highlight some differences between County Office of Ed budgets as well as district budgets. A small percentage of the COE funding is unrestricted, and that's mainly our local control funding formula dollars, our LCFF dollars. I'll go into what portion of the budget that is, but it's about 17% of our overall budget. So that's a smaller amount that's unrestricted compared to districts, who the majority of their funding is unrestricted, because the majority of their funding, 65 to 85% of their funding is LCFF, and LCFF is primarily unrestricted. So that 17% of ours compared to the 65 to 80% of the district. At the COE, multiple management positions, you'll see more of those because they're leading countywide work and services. Whereas on the district side, you'll see more teachers and staff directly serving students. I'll point out later in our expenditures, our staffing percentage is closer to 42% of our overall budget, where you'll see with districts, theirs is closer to 80% of the overall budget or more are staffing. So that you'll see a difference there. And part of that is compensated for that last box there, which is fee for service type work. So work where it's either pass-through dollars, as well as a big portion or example would be our alternative payment program, where it's revenue that we receive, but we're paying providers that are doing the work. So that's a big difference from districts as well. And I mentioned that distinction and that difference between LCFF. I mentioned that it's 17% of our total revenue. Our funding formula is also different. Districts is primarily based on the number of students and the demographics of the students. Ours is broken into these 4 areas. And so of our overall 17% of that LCFF, 70% of it, the majority of it is the operation grants. And that's what we're provided for our oversight responsibilities for the districts. And that's calculated based on the number of schools and the ADA, average daily attendance in the county. 9% is the alternative education program. And that's for us to run our juvenile court and community schools. And that's based on the ADA of those programs specifically. And then we have funding 8% for differentiated assistance. And that's based on the number of districts and charters that are eligible for differentiated assistance and for us to provide support to increase capacity for improving student outcomes. And then that last piece there, that 13%, that's kind of like a carryover from the old funding model. It's based on an amount from 2012, 2013, and it's just always plugged into the LCFF calculation. And then another difference is how the excess property taxes are addressed within the funding. So for LCFF funded districts and COEs, it's the local property taxes. If they do not reach the entitlement level that's determined, then there will be additional state funding and support to reach that entitlement. If a district were to exceed that entitlement, they would be considered a community funded district. They'd be allowed to keep that excess funding. Difference here is for COEs, we have to return those excess property taxes and they're designated to fund trial courts. And then I included the revenue in the overview side. When I get into the budget itself, I'll get into the expenditures. But since we were talking about LCFF and revenue, thought it was a good place here to talk a little bit about just the breakdown of our revenue sources. 1% up top, and this is just our general fund. So I'll go over our general fund and our child development fund, and then I'll put them together in a slide. So for just the general fund, the Fund 1 side, 1% is federal funding. Those are things like Title I, special education, and McKinney-Vento. Those are all restricted dollars, a small portion of the general fund. 13% is other state revenue, so other than LCFF. Those examples are special education, lottery, CTE grants, and the equity multiplier funds. The majority of those are restricted as well. And then the 34% is what I mentioned. Again, 34% of the general fund is the LCFF. And then the 52% is other local revenues. Examples of that are interest from our ending balances or our fund balances. And then our nonprofits there, Children's Creative Project, Partners in Ed, Health Linkages and Grants. There's also some special ed direct service dollars in there, some special ed regional dollars, as well as Medicaid. So kind of a big pot of other local revenue. On the child development side, looks a little different, but good to see them separately. 1% is other local revenue. That's again the interest as well as some local grants. 14% is federal. In this case, it's child nutrition and the alternative payment program. And then 85% is other state revenue. That's the state side of the alternative payment program, as well as state preschool. So what I didn't mention on the last slide is the general fund is about 49% of the overall budget. And you'll see here that the Child Development Fund, Fund 12, is 51% of total revenue. And when you put it together, it looks like this: 8% federal revenue, 17% LCFF, 26% other local revenue, and then 49% other state revenue. Okay, so now I'll transition into this upcoming year's budget. And I'll begin there with an overview of the state budget. So like I mentioned, the May revision, it's a big time for us. So we wait to receive that so that we can kind of plug in those final numbers and get a really clear look forward as to what is on the horizon there in terms of the budget. So big picture for the state, the good news is there was a $16.5 billion revenue increase above what was anticipated. So it doesn't result in a surplus per se. It actually is balancing the budget through June of 2028. And it also helps to build up some of the reserves. So while the increase is, it's a good thing to have that increase, the May revision still cautions about the risks of potential kind of budget fallouts in future years. And those are mainly around the AI bubble. One of the big resources or sources of revenue with the company taxes. And so if AI companies were to go under, there would be a loss there, as well as the continued reliance on the top 1% of income earners. So the next year looks good, but we're always cautious of the year after the next year. And so typically how the overall budget goes, since Prop 98 is a portion of that, we'll see the same pattern in Prop 98. So an increase in Prop 98 funding, which is the guarantee for education. And that is going to pay some settle up from previous years, as well as make some deposits into the reserve. And then a unique part of this year's budget is the statutory COLA was 2.87%, which was higher than projected. So that's a good thing. That COLA is applied to all other programs except for the LCFF. For the LCFF this year, there's a 4.31% super COLA, and anything above the statutory COLA is called a super COLA. So there's an additional funding for it. This year, it is only for LCFF. So like I mentioned, if our budget is only 17% LCFF, that's only a super COLA or a 4.31% on that 17%. So that would look a little smaller for us than it would for districts if their LCFF is 80%. And the other unique thing about that augmentation, that additional 1.44% this year, is that that is not designated for, but it was there's kind of an unfunded mandate for unpaid leave, and that's assumed to be paid out of this. And so there's a lot of conversations around, is this sufficient for county offices of education? And so that's something that we anticipate will change in the enacted budget, something that's still being addressed. And so big overview of the revenue changes for the upcoming year. There was a total decrease, and this is from our estimated actual. So that's why the estimated actual is important. It's where we're ending this year and where we're projecting starting next year. A total decrease of 10 million. When you break that down, the unrestricted general fund remains the same. The restricted general fund is a decrease of about 1.7 million. And then the child development fund is a decrease of about 8.3 million. And I'll just note on the 8.3 million, it is a decrease, but it's also an adjustment in the approach to how they're utilizing their grant funding. So grant funding sometimes spans multiple years or a year and a half or 2 years. So this is an attempt to use the funds within the year that they're awarded, not just the time that they're allowed to be spent. So it's a shifting as much as it is a decrease. On the revenue side, we increased the LCFF by the 4.31%. And then we increased all other categorical programs by the statutory COLA of 2.87. We still have these expiring grants from the COVID time and just after that. So over the next several years, there's these grants, kind of these large multi-year grants that are falling off. We decreased funding for differentiated assistance. That is a kind of a 3-year rolling calculation for that number. So we're adjusting that to predict for next year. And then once we find out the designation in the fall, then we'll adjust that number again. And then the transfer of the property taxes, which the excess property taxes is about $9 million. And then on the expenditure side, there's a total decrease of about $3.9 million. On the unrestricted general fund side, about $500,000, and the restricted general fund side of about $200,000. And then the child development fund, a decrease of about $4.2 million. So you're seeing a mirror of, revenue to expenditure changes. Some expenditure assumptions that are included in the budget. We're in the 3rd year of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement, which includes a 4% increase to staff. And then we're adjusting employer costs for health benefits. That's an increase. We projected of 10%. We get the number after we do the budget. It comes in slightly higher than that, actually. So that'll be an adjustment at first interim. And then the pensions, the STIRs and PERS, those aren't increases. Those are the amounts. So want to include the amounts so that you can see what they are. But that's why it's adjustments and not increases across the board. And then thirdly, the reduce in the expenditures associated with those one-time grants. And then, we purchased the building in this current year. Next year, we'll be working on the projects. Just to note that the cost of those are coming from our facility reserve. So you wouldn't see those big swings in our general fund budget because that's what the reserves are for. Wrong button, sorry. Well, I didn't intend to use the pointer today. Yeah. You saw earlier that we broke out the revenue by general fund and child development fund. That's part of our SACS reporting. You get the big printout in your book, but in terms of the accounting, we do look at those differently, and that's why some of our slides include that distinction. And so I'll get into the pie graph. So this is a representation of the overall expenditures by the type of support that's provided. And so overall budget there is $182.7 million. And you'll see that about 78% of that is student support. 13% is district and school support. 4% is internal support. And then 5% is that excess property tax transfer. So first we'll look at the district and school support and internal support. That's about 17% of the budget overall. On the district and school support side, that includes our local control and accountability plan support, as well as our student business advisory services and some IT. On the internal support side, that's kind of the bones, the fiscal services, human resources, maintenance, and operation. And on the support side, total, that's again about 78%. 8% is other student services. So that's our juvenile court and community school, as well as our career tech ed and our nonprofits, PI, CCP, and CCR, and CFR, sorry. And then 19% is special education and 51% is ECE. And then if we take those and those are kind of our expenditures by type of service. This is more of expenditures overall combined of items essentially. So if we run through this, you got a couple of 1% there. The first 1% is capital outlay. That includes subscription assets. So we had electronic health records that helps with some medical billing. That's included in there. Our financial system, Escape, is included in there. And then one-time purchases of equipment. The next 1% there is the interfund transfer out. That's the transfer to special reserve for capital outlay. So that's our facilities reserve fund. So about 1% is transferred out for facilities maintenance, leases, and purchases. The last 1% there, that's the okay, books and supplies. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. 5% there is our other outgo. So that's the excess property tax, as well as accounting for some of those subscriptions. Sorry, I'm making everybody choke there. Apologize for that. I'll hurry it up, yeah. 13% there is the 13%, the 42, the 14% and the 15%. That's all essentially salaries, health and benefits. That's the 42% I talked about. And then the 50%, you'll see there's the services and other operating, utilities, insurance, and then I mentioned that alternative payment program providers. APP is a good portion of the budget and a good portion of this on the expenditure side as well. And then when we just look at a 2-year comparison, this is combined general fund and child development fund, but the beginning balance in our estimated actuals for 25-26 was about 48 million. And when you look at the difference in revenue and expense, we end up at about 57.7 million as an ending balance. And that ending balance becomes our starting balance for the adopted budget. And then based on the revenue expenses that I described, we end up at about 60.970 million in terms of an ending balance there. And that's overall. If we were to break the 2-year comparison into general fund unrestricted, general fund restricted, and then child development fund, I'll just jump to the balances for the proposed budget. For unrestricted, starting at about 22.5 million, and then ending at about 25.5 million. And then on the restricted side, starting at 22.9 million and ending at about 23.2. And then for the child development fund, 12.2 million is the beginning balance and the ending balance is 12.1. And then this is probably too hard to see from there, but the point of this slide is that we also look at our 3-year projection. So are we able to meet our financial obligations in the current budget year, as well as the next 2 out years? And you'll see from there that we have healthy reserves in that time. So the current year budget is a very good budget, and it looks good going forward for a couple of years. And I'll take any questions at this time.
I had a question as I was looking at the impacts and the priorities.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed is that on the list is that there's a possibility that Santa Maria Bonita might request their special ed department or special education programs back to their own district. How soon would we know something like that's going to happen?
Yes.
I don't know if you have a magic.
And in terms of timeline, I mean, I can
Yeah.
be specific. Is there anything?
Because I know they were playing with that last year and decided not to.
Yeah.
Like, gee, I hope not. I just wondered because it's, and then I think there's like 7 more districts that want to begin full services.
Correct.
And yeah, so that's a lot of in and out.
Yes. So we used to call it a year and a day notice when a district would request to take back their services. And that was because they had to notify us by, say, June 30th of 2026, if they wanted to begin serving their own students in that program by July 1st of 2027. That changed because of a change to the SELPA policy. And that goes into effect now. And what it will now be is if a district would like to begin serving their own students, they need to notify us by November of 2026, but they would begin serving their students July 1st of 2028. So it's almost a 2-year process, not quite. And there's sort of check-ins and benchmarks in the way. So we would know by November 1st of this year, if that's Santa Maria Bonita's intention. And if they submit a program transfer request, then we would work with them to have that go into effect.
That sounds
July
better
1st of 2020.
than
Yes.
next
Yeah.
year. Okay, thank you.
And we are going to begin serving 6 additional districts because of the disillusionment of the San Ynez Valley Special Education Consortium. We're providing different levels of service to each of the different districts, depending on what their requests were.
That's big. Thank you. Thank you. And the only other question I had is that Santa Maria High School and Santa Maria Bonita are sending
fewer students to Fitzgerald? Is that my understanding? So that there'll be a reduction in the classrooms there?
Yes, currently there was 2 classrooms each for each
Yeah.
program. Now they're reducing it to 1 each.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fluctuated, I think, in the past, but it's the current agreement that
I
they're.
saw the numbers go down too, but wow. The problems haven't gone down, but the numbers have gone down.
It's interesting that the districts actually adopt a philosophy towards expulsion and suspension and all of that, and it yings and yangs. It's odd, isn't it?
Like every other year, we get an exciting year. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. So from my understanding in the in the governor's May revision, about between 5 to 8 million were deducted from the Prop 98. And I just wanted to know how that affects our budget and where would those Prop 98 dollars land in our budget.
Yeah, so they don't necessarily hit us directly. The overall budget that it's taken from is it's projecting, because those numbers, and you see the cycle of the budget, they're changing constantly. We predict them now and then they change that first and second interim. So what's being done, the maneuver of sorts is to kind of withhold some of it based on a lower, kind of projecting lower than what they could anticipate based on the data. And then if that funding actually comes through or those numbers come through, then they'll repay that going into the following year. So the money isn't deducted or lost, it's kind of withheld.
Okay.
So it's kind of a small impact spread out throughout, but the concern is that, it's legislated that the Prop 98 is supposed to be this amount. So it should be issued at that amount so that we're not having to kind of true up, every year, because if we have a bad budget year, then we're not going to have the money to true up. So it works out great this year. Like I mentioned, the Prop 98 increase this year, they're able to pay back what they withheld last year, but that's not sustainable.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Flores. And now we'll have time for the public hearing. And seeing as we have no public comments, we will close the hearing. Great. And now we'll go to Superintendent's report.
Turn this on. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. First, let me pause and see if you had any questions or comments on the submitted report, because I have several additional comments and questions that I'd like to introduce today. So anything that from the report that I submitted. Okay. Okay, good. Yes. There's been a lot of really, really great work that's been happening. Thank you very much. So let me add to it a couple of notes. First, on the 2 presentations actually that we had a moment ago, which were in collaboration with many, many, many individuals. You know that all districts right now, all school districts are actually hearing and having the hearings on their LCAPs and their budgets. And just a real thanks to our team on both the LCAP and the budget side, all of the involvement with your teams. When we bring these forward, I have such confidence in sharing them with the board and appreciate all the questions and comments that you have. But it's a year-long process for both of those reports. And I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do. Really appreciate that. Also want to say thank you to our county board for the acknowledgement of what's happening right now, those exciting celebrations, and yet that acknowledgement of the really deep hurt that's happening here in the county. North County, and wanted to emphasize what I shared with you in an email earlier this week, that 4 of the individuals that were part of that fatal crash were former JCCS students, both at Fitzgerald and Dos Puertas. And in talking with Bridget and Renee, Andreo's here as well, from our juvenile court and community school team. there's just been a wrap around of love and support to the staff here as well as the students here. Because while the involved students were former students and then went back to different sites, our students and staff know of the students who were involved and their families very closely, very interconnected, and appreciation for the immediate support by our team in calling Family Service Agency and the Council on CADA, I believe, Council on Drug and Alcoholism, to provide support and therapy right here on campuses. So it's a huge community pain that we're experiencing, and that you acknowledged in both the celebrations, but also that loss is, I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you to our team for your support. Couple other things. So since we last met, the Children's Creative Project and Bridget and all of the board of the CCP and they were at EMOD and RE for 3 straight days. I think they almost slept there. And the county board, in collaboration with our cabinet team, contributed to the beautiful chalk art on the left. Yes, it's really big in a very prominent space. You can see right at the steps. Yeah, the steps of the front of the mission. What's in front of the mission is the featured artist, but it just is really just a remarkable opportunity to engage the community, and want to say thank you for being a part of it. In fact, we had some SB CEO staff say, "Oh, I know that we had a square contributed or dedicated to us. I can't wait to see." So we'll be sharing that out more widely, but thank you for the contribution. Also, a couple other announcements or pieces here. We are here in the final days of treasuring our time with Mari Minhares. Yes, Mari is exiting our SB CEO organization after 20 years with us, starting in special education, then in human resources, and then working with my office this year. Headed to Washington State and opening up her own consultancy. And Mari is just a tremendous force. She's somebody that, all of us have relied on, the districts have relied on. And I will say too, personally, I think we've all probably could say we've experienced this, but when you have Mari on your team, you feel like you can do anything, you can accomplish anything. And Mari's just so knowledgeable, wonderful, and a dear colleague and a dear friend. And so wanted to say thank you, Mari, for all that you've done. Appreciate you. You're welcome to say any words at the podium should you wish, but that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yes. 2 more things. So one last is that if you have recently checked your SBCO email, I let you know that there's some grand jury reports that will be coming out soon. There have been 2 so far. I'm anticipating a couple more school related. I don't know. We don't know what they will be ever. So wanted you to know that since the county board is also being requested to respond, at this time, we'll work directly with NADRA, but then I'll make sure that the county board is looped in. But at this time, since we're just receiving them, we're just looking at them, reading them, scanning them, and then processing how to best respond. As you know, just making sure that you do know that it's a volunteer group that that makes up the grand jury, and the grand jury annually chooses and selects some areas of the county. So they're always usually county departments that they will look into. Sometimes it results in a report and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we know about them and sometimes we don't. But each year that new grand jury will come up with some, new areas to investigate. And then that agency is required, or the agencies named are required to respond within a certain amount of time. And that's about as far as it goes. That's as much as it goes. And I think that the volunteers have a lot of curiosity and they do a lot of analysis on their own and research. And so I take the reports and recommendations as an opportunity to educate, share what we are doing. And in many ways, they're looking at things that we are looking at too. So, but it's just an opportunity to educate but by law, we need to respond. So wanted to let you know, and that you may be seeing that in the media. And didn't want you to be surprised. The final part is inter-district transfer requests. Okay. Yes. So now Dr. Elise Simmons is our point person, as you know, Child Welfare and Services for SBCEO. And so these inter-district transfer requests we now have 3 that need to be heard soon in the next few weeks prior to school opening. They are right now they are Santa Maria Orchid related inter-district transfer requests. We may receive more, we may not. Of the 3, some may continue, some may not. But at this point, we have 3. So I wanted to share with you some of the thoughts around how and when the board may want to hear these requests, since this is the rule that we have to do this. Next week's Thursday board meeting is too soon. We cannot process that the reports by that time. And the Orchid staff in this case, they really need to be present, and there's just several reasons why next week won't work out. The next board meeting is July 9th, and July 9th we have held for the county retreat. Yeah. July 9th, however, seems like a good date to use because you're holding the date. We have enough time to create the packets and work on the process, and Orchid staff are available. If we used that date, that would mean that the retreat would need to be moved off to another date. I wouldn't recommend coupling up the retreat and the IDTs on the same date for just a variety of reasons. Part of it is cognitive and emotional and all of that. Yeah. Just a lot of focus that we want to do. So at another time, and in fact, what we could do is just for now talk about the IDT, and when you'd like to hear the IDTs, then we could, even at the future agenda item portion, then talk about when to do the retreat. But for now, I wanted to just focus on the inter-district transfer hearing requests and ask the chair if we could get a sense for when the board would want to hear those. The other option would be not using July 9th, but then finding a special board meeting time that would probably be right in that mid-July timeframe. Because if we use the August board meeting, it would be too late. The school would have begun. So that July timeframe is the right timeframe. So just wanted to get a sense now if we might use some time to solidify that date.
Definitely. Thank you, Madre. Yes. Dr. Holly, it's the superintendent for Orchid. So I saw her yesterday and she apologizes for sending us more work. But I did thank her for her work with the staff to have this happen now.
Right.
I was behind a lady and her daughter in the market, and they were talking about next year she's going to go to junior high. And so I happened to, open my mouth and, where and all, she's been received notice that the school across the street, which is where she wants to go, she can't go because they're full. I didn't mention anything about the appeal. I didn't set my lips on it, but they have been notified already, which is, they've done a fantastic job on that. So I personally feel that we need to come up to our end of it and make it as soon as possible so that the parents will have time to. Yeah.
Just wanted to see if there was somebody who, really wanted to pause on this and not use July 9th. I think that would just be a really efficient way to go. If there's somebody who would just say, let's rethink this. Otherwise, I'm feeling that you're feeling it would be a good use of time, but just wanted to see if there's any other opinion. Not that we don't want to have the county board's retreat. I did speak with Lauren Ball, who's the facilitator, who said, if we need to adjust, I can adjust. Yeah.
We just have to get it done.
In
terms of,
right. Okay.
and I do understand that Orchid has changed some things, so maybe it will be a neater package for delivery so that the emotion is not going to be so contained and so overwhelming. I'm just really hoping for that because I personally don't want to go through all of that emotion again.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So I think we have
gotta
the
get it
date
done
then,
today.
July 9th. The question I have for you, if I may take a little bit more further time, is speaking of time, is the time we're holding 9 to 12 for the retreat, or 12:30. So we could start at 9 o'clock if you wanted to, rather than, since you already have it, I believe, I don't know that there would be any reason to have, no, okay. So 9 o'clock would still work as a time. And coupling with that, just asking for that is, coupling with that, we're going to need to talk about location.
I was just gonna say.
So the location I would suggest would be either here in Santa Maria, everybody here, or a dual location, or you to be in person either in Santa Maria and or Santa Barbara, and we connect you by Zoom. So I think those would be so there's kind of a couple things, is the time. We could go back to a 2 o'clock. I just worry that we were holding 9 o'clock. So I'm really respecting what you've been holding. We can put it at 2 o'clock. So there's the time frame, and then there's the location.
It's really going to be awkward, thinking about our past discussions, to have a split if the parents are going to be here. I mean, I would assume even with a split that the parents would be here and the Orchid staff
Correct.
would be here.
Correct.
Oh my.
It would be better for everyone to be in person, but I wanted to open that up.
If we're to meet Santa Maria in person, 2 o'clock might be better if we have.
That's right.
Restricted board business. So our agenda isn't too.
Right. Yes. That's right. So for travel purposes. For travel, a little bit more. Yeah. Would it be possible to do 10 for travel purposes? Would that work?
Yeah, would that still? Okay. So since we already have that time, but I know we were thinking with a 9 to 12, but yeah, that would be heavy lift. It started at 9, but maybe if we start at 10, since we still have that. And that suggestion, 9 o'clock just means, I think it's just, we all have to travel down there all the time.
Yes.
Like to give us a little bit more time. Okay.
Yeah,
To get here. So 10 all in person.
10 all in person.
Is it a good compromise?
Make the change.
Great.
To go along.
What they said.
And I hear you also on the agenda itself. As we put that board meeting together, we'll be conscientious not to stack it with anything other than what is necessary. At this time, we were already holding things off just because it was going to be the retreat. I just don't anticipate anything the only thing I could anticipate, by the way, is what came up earlier today, which is the Olive Grove MOU. It may not be ready for Thursday. It wasn't ready today. There's nothing happening other than both sides need to review, both sides need to get to the board. So it's a timing thing. So that might get pushed till the July meeting, not sure. That's about the only thing I could anticipate. So we'll go with the 10 o'clock, July 9th. Dr. Simmons will communicate with both Santa Maria Bonita and Orchid, and our team as well. And we'll plan it up here. Thank you.
We should anticipate 10 until.
You know, I would say it's probably been about I think we had anticipated or blocked off 45 minutes in the past per. I'm looking at you for the timing. It's a good average, so 45 minutes. Right now, there are 3. Well, 10 to 1 at this point sounds about right. We'll make sure to have refreshments for you. Yeah, tissue here. And at this time, we have 3, so we won't know if there will be more or less.
I can bring an emotional support dog.
I think that sounds like a great idea. That's a great idea. All right, great questions. So till 1 o'clock.
I probably should have one, like, can you mention something about next week?
Yes.
What's happening next week?
Yes, there is a county board meeting next week. Perfect reminder. There's one on Thursday. But it is at what time is it? 10 a.m. Dual location, 10 a.m. next week. And that is because the adoption of the LCAP and the budget plus other presentations must occur separate from today's board meeting. So it's next Thursday at 10 a.m. Did I give you enough time to look that up and see that it's on your calendar?
Oh, man.
Oh,
Santa Maria folks will meet here.
10 o'clock, dual
Santa Barbara,
location.
we just go.
Yes.
Making sure.
Hour. That's right. That's right. We do anticipate on that one to have a closed session conversation. None of but neither the meeting nor the closed session is really anticipated to be a lengthy discussion. We are hoping for right about an hour for the whole meeting. Okay. That is the end of my report. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to move on now to the consent agenda. And at this time, the board will consider all the items below together and act upon them with a single vote. They include the minutes of the meeting held May 14th, the registration of credentials and other certification documents, the acceptance, of donations, and the declaration of surplus. So do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I second. Second, okay. And it's any opposed? Okay. Okay. So we have an extension and all in favor? Aye. All right. So that passes with six approvals and 1 abstention. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our action item. The recommended approval for the 2025-2026 school plan for student achievement in juvenile court and community schools. So the superintendent recommends the approval of 2025 and 2026 school plan. Would you like to speak a little bit more to this? Superintendent Salcito?
Yeah. That would be great, Renee. Thank you so much.
Hi. So there are 2 plans, one for our court school, one for our community school. And this is specific to our use of title funds. And we get Title I N for, or D for delinquent, and Title II for professional development. And so these plans outline how we use those funds, and they are very similar because we are one department, juvenile court and community school, but then there are some unique differences between the 2.
Awesome. Are there any questions? Okay.
Well, I have the same question for the couple of items. This was the recommended approval of the 25-26 school plan. Is that?
Yes. So the year that we're just wrapping up. And so we do have a couple of years of data in there just so you can see where we try to include current data when possible. And we had a lot of current data because we're also working on the LCAP at the same time.
This is more like a ratification, I gather, right? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
It's done already. So if we said, no, we don't approve.
That is an excellent point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So with that, do I have a
Sure.
motion? A motion to approve. Okay, a second. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, passes unanimously.
If you oppose, you have to rewrite it.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee. So now we will move on to item 19, which is the recommended approval for the 2026-2027 consolidated application for funding. And the superintendent recommends approval of the submission of California Department of Education for the 2026-2027 funding under the consolidated categorical programs as outlined in the attachment that we received. And this application is submitted to the CDE once a year. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
My second.
Okay, any questions, discussion, any abstentions? Opposed, all approved?
Aye.
Okay, then the motion passes unanimously. And moving on to, we're going to skip 20 because the MOU will be prepared later. And then we're going to go to 21 with the recommended approval for 2024-2025 Forest Reserve Fund apportionment. And Superintendent Solcito, can you speak a little to this before we take our vote?
Absolutely. And
Steve Torres.
yes, I'll invite Steve to the podium. And Steve, if you would go ahead and address 21 and 22 at the same time, that would be great. So they're coupled.
Okay,
great.
Absolutely. Earlier this year, I think I shared some information about some of the small rural district funding that was available. One of those was the Secure Rural Schools Program. That lapsed in 22-23. And then in December of 25, so just this past December, it was reauthorized. So as part of the reauthorization, it went back to 23-24, and a portion of that was sequestered. So that's a smaller portion. So that's the 23-24, and then the 24-25 is the full apportionment. This funding is intended to compensate rural districts for essentially the tax exempt status of federal land. So in our case, the Los Padres National Forest. So that portion, this is a pot of money that's put aside for that. Of the big pot, 50% goes to the county itself for road repairs, and then 50% comes to us to support programs for students. And so that what you'll see here is kind of the disbursement amount. For 1 year, like I said, it's a small amount for 23-24. And I know these are separate actions, but I'll give you all the information now. So for 23-24, because of that sequestered amount, the county portion is 3,350, and I'm used to saying millions from the budget. So it's only $3,000. The formula for that is by ed code, the SBCO can take 15% or gets 15% of that portion, and then 85% goes to the districts. And the way that we break out the 85% is using two different formulas. So half of the 85% is based on the territory that falls within each of the districts. And then the other 50% is based on the number of students that reside in that territory area. So we have 14 districts and 2 community colleges that fall within that area by territory and by number of students.
So Steve, the 3,500, it comes up and then we disperse it to those schools? Or
correct. With board approval, this is the formula by which we would disperse it. Yeah.
So again, same thing. This is retro, meaning, obviously those schools, it's almost like reimbursed.
Well, so the funding is always previous year. So that's when we receive previous year funding. And so we're going back because of the lapsed year, or because of the reauthorization. But we're taking last year's funding and dispersing it going forward. Okay. So you would be approving us to disperse it in this way. So it is last year's funds, but the disbursement is the action that we still have to take. Okay. So you have to approve.
All right.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
One at a time.
We vote one at a time and for each one, or can we group them together? Since
I don't have a motion. Page.
No, we don't know which one.
I would do them separately.
okay, no, not at all. Okay, so then we are asking for a motion for the recommended approval of the 2024-2025 Forest Reserve Fund apportionment. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, that moves forward unanimously. And now for the recommended approval for the 2023-2024 Forest Reserve Fund apportionment. Do I have a motion for that? Okay,
I'll second.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Moves forward unanimously. And now we are going to the recommended approval for the use of 2026-2027 Proposition 30 Education Protection Account revenues. So the superintendent recommends the approval of the 2026-2027 Proposition 30 Education Protection Account revenues to be used for existing Dos Puertos Juvenile Court School certificated salaries and benefits. And this is also an annual reoccurring item. And do we have any discussion or explanation on this one? Or?
I think I'd like to ask if there are any questions about them. I think the memo really describes it well. We can't use the funds for administrative costs, but I think it's really appropriate to support certificated salaries and benefits. So that's the request.
All righty.
Well, Susan.
Yes.
Just Proposition 30, I'm gathering is something that the voters voted on.
Correct. And yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so this was around the time that LCFF was implemented. So this is actually incorporated into the LCFF entitlement, but it has to do with preserving, and let's describe this as best as I can, but preserving like these incremental increases again to top earners. So it's this percentage of that income tax that's taken and put into this EPA account, and then it's dispersed accordingly. To use it, we would have to have board approval to use it in whichever way we determine in this case. That's that.
Really, this is just like one of these things that this was on the ballot though, somewhere, state ballot or county ballot or some ballot. State ballot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a process.
And I'm gonna support it, but like this is stuff that drives. I have no idea how I voted for this. And in part because I would have gotten it and I was like, I don't know,
2012.
and I don't really understand it. It has something to do with education and blah, 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 blah. But, and I don't know what we do to improve this.
Yeah.
But, just sort of listening, this is a good thing, I think. But and I kind of pay attention to stuff. And I'm like, I'm not voting. I don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
But it was on the ballot.
And it was.
And 9 people voted in favor of it. Everybody else didn't vote. So sorry about this. Sorry. Yeah. So yes, I'll move for approval.
Okay, perfect.
I move to approve.
Okay. Can I get a second?
There's 2.
Can I get a second? Okay. Yeah, Katya, second. Okay, any
And third, fourth.
Any abstentions? All and approved?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, so that passes. All right, so then we're going to move. We're going to move on to the recommended approval for the 2025-2026 Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report. So Superintendent recommends the approval of the 2025-2026 Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report. This annual report is required to be reviewed and approved by the governing board pursuant to Education Code Section 8820 G4.
You can see Steve still at the podium.
What's going on?
I've asked him to stay for a couple of more.
Yeah.
Items. So.
What are?
Yeah, so for this one overall,
voting on?
the Prop 28 was to support specifically not art and music in schools, but staffing. And so it's given as a certain amount. And so there's districts, ourselves, that the funding isn't enough to support a full-time position. So that's what the description of the waiver was up top. So then we're not reporting any full-time positions, but we are using the money, and that's what the waiver allows us to do, is utilize the funds for non-full-time staff. So we use contracted services to provide the arts and music education to the student. So this is just, so when you see the zeros, it's not that nothing's being done, it's just that there's no full-time staff that are associated with those funds.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And do I have a motion?
I still make a motion.
Do I have a second? Perfect. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. And now we're going to move on to the recommended approval of requests for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions in the juvenile court and community schools. So this is a recommendation to approve the request for allowance of attendance due to emergency condition to be submitted to the California Department of Education for the closure of classes for the following, and that would be for the school May 5th through 7th in 2026. And do you want to get a little bit more description or explanation on this?
There are required waivers for all schools if they had to close school for an emergency reason. In this case, there had been
norovirus.
It was norovirus. We thought that we couldn't have school in session because they're all in a closed environment. So in order to keep staff and students safe, we need to have students be in their rooms and staff as well. So that's what the waiver is seeking. Thank you. You're welcome.
And do I have a motion? One second. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we're moving on to the recommended approval of renewed leases. So we're doing a lot of approvals today. And so the approval to renew the leases for the facilities located on Farnell Road and Main Street in Santa Maria. And Steve, take it away.
So you'll see on there two leases. One is for Farnell Road. We previously had a 5-year lease here with 5-year extensions. In speaking with the owner, we're considering a 1-year lease here for all of the space that would take us through November of 27. And then at that time, renegotiating whatever space we do need for a lease going forward. So it's a lease renewal, but for 1 year is what we're considering, given that we'll be anticipating moving out of here at that time. So that's one of the leases. The other is for our ECE main. We have a 3-year lease extension option on that particular lease, and we'd like to exercise that option. That building, the program is doing well. We're occupying the space. So this is just the renewal for that.
Thank you. And do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any abstentions? Opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously.
A lot of reading this week.
Yes.
Reading.
It was, yeah. Okay, so now we're moving on to the item 27, recommended adoption of order of election and notice to consolidate for the November 2026 trustee election. So this is a recommendation to adopt the resolution number 2610, ordering the governing board member election on November 3rd, 2026.
And a brief description of this. Consolidated means to consolidate with all of the other elected, positions throughout the county on one single election date. The other alternative is to order a special election, which is quite costly.
Right.
So that's what this one is speaking about.
Perfect. Okay, and this is a roll call vote. So
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve. Second, and we're ready for a roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
Aye.
Dr. Armistead.
Aye.
Mrs. Cardy.
Aye.
Ms. Ehrman.
Aye.
Mrs. Frost. Aye. Mrs. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item 28. Recommended adoption of resolution covering conditions set forth for candidate statements. So this is a recommendation to adopt the resolution number 2611 covering conditions set forth in the candidate statements.
Great, thank you. And so there's really two variables here. One is who pays for the candidate statements to be part of the election. And it can be either the candidate who pays for that themselves or the school district or the county office. And so over time, the history has been to have the individual pay for their own candidate's filing fee and statement. That's the variable one. And the other one is around the number of words for their ballot statement. Ballot statements, the length, longer length incurs more cost, shorter has a lesser cost for the ballot statement. And so 200 words versus 400 words are the choices. And to be succinct, that would be for anybody who would be entering in the race. And so what this action is stating is that you would be choosing 200 words versus 400. And that has been the traditional number in the past. There's been a year where there's been 400 words, but I think that we've determined that 200 has been sufficient.
And it's my understanding that, the thought just flew right on.
I saw it fly.
That the candidate statement is optional, up to the candidate whether they submit one or not.
That is
The
correct.
filing fee, of course, we have to occur. And just for clarification, who is up this fall?
Mary Beth Carty, Judy Frost, and Vita Flores.
Thank you.
Yes, exciting times. All right, can I get a move to approve? Thank you. Can I get a second? Okay, perfect. And now we'll go to a roll call vote.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
I.
It's like, yeah, but it was trying to shock me there. Oh my God, I have to run for real.
I was thinking
Aye.
Mrs. Carty.
Aye.
Ms. Erman.
Aye.
Mrs. Frost.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed. Mr. Walker. Thank you. Motion passes.
Great. All right, now we're moving on to just the information items on the personnel report and correspondence. This was on May 8th, 2026, from the California Department of Education, confirming the acceptance of the Santa Barbara County Ed Office 2025-2026 second interim report. And for our future agenda items, we will have a presentation by the Lompoc Teen Center Program Manager regarding their Teen Leadership Advocacy Council and their advocacy trips, a presentation by Future for Lompoc Youth, information on Olive Crest Hope Refuge, and a continued discussion on AB 1390 regarding board member compensation. And now item 32, adjournment. Oh, no, sorry.
Remind me what Olive Crest Hope Refuge is.
Yeah, it's the, what was that?
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking.
If I may, also, one of the topics that I said we could put here would be a different retreat date. So we need not speak about it now unless you'd like to, but we could talk about some of those, we need to talk about that at a future board meeting for sure. One of Guy Walker, he contributed an idea around having the board convene at a future, say, CSBA board conference. And so I wanted to share with you, in other words, in lieu of or in addition to a retreat. And so what I did was I took a look at some upcoming board conferences, since we had said we would be doing that anyway in advance. Okay. So just for a moment, wanted to pass this out. Let me make sure that it gets all the way to Dr. Armstead, and then we'll make sure she does. Yeah. Maybe not. Now I can't.
Doing a good job.
So again, thinking about a retreat date, one, we might want to select a different date coming up in the summer or August or something like that. Another idea that had been raised is perhaps not having a retreat, but then meeting together at a county conference or both. So wanted to simply say that we've scanned the county statewide conferences for county related conferences. CSBA has one for counties, and you can see the date there in Marina Del Rey. Then there's the district and county conference that Guy and Nadra attended last year, and the dates are in December, and you can see just information there. One note, if we discuss this at a future board meeting, is that a board retreat couldn't happen at a conference. That's just something I want to loop back around with, because the meeting itself would be a board meeting. And that board meeting has to happen in county as per law. So I checked into that one, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't go to a conference, just couldn't have a retreat at the conference.
Because that's a meeting.
Because that's a meeting, yeah. But wanted to share these dates with you, wanted to just put that in the back of your mind as we then talk at a future meeting about coming back together.
Thank you.
So the CSBA Counties Conference is directed towards county school boards.
Correct.
That would be a good one.
Yeah. Okay, and so we'll add those two items to our future agenda item. Let's just getting along. All righty. I think it's time for now.
Want to talk about potential dates for a retreat since this won't count?
Well, we can do that now, or we can set that aside to talk about it at another meeting, unless we can.
Just even if we had throughout a few dates, that would some mull over, it could be helpful. Just because calendars get filled up.
Yeah.
So we held that one for a while.
That's true.
So I guess my question for the group would be, do we want to try to do a different date in July or August?
Anybody have any suggestions? I have no idea what's on my calendar.
Yeah.
In the calendar.
You don't have your calendar?
Okay, then never mind. I'm pretty open.
Okay, if there's people who don't have an idea of what they're up to. Just because you don't have a calendar in front of you is what I mean.
Right. One of the things we can think about, do we want to add it to, one of the original ideas was adding it to a board meeting? Do we want to try to do that?
Put that on the agenda for next week.
Oh, yeah.
So
There we
all
go. That would be good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're kind of.
I just know my calendar gets.
Yeah.
With the idea of adding it to a board meeting as one of the
Or
other.
something.
Yes.
Okay.
But we could talk about it next week.
Do you want to set a separate date? When will you want to do that? What do
Thank
the
you.
calendars look like? So prepared.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Great solution.
Good thinking, Judy.
Good. Yeah, good thing to do. All right.
And thanks for getting us to another date.
I never thought about it. That's close. All right, guys, it's time to wrap this thing up. Item 32, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. All in favor? Okay, meeting adjourned.